Not yet. Die, forgotten. I can't do that yet. I need more time.
Welcome to the Orb of Storms slash shockburst rounds Chronomancer, otherwise known as the chronOoStormtrooper. This is a Chronomancer build where we use Orb of Storms as our main DPS and then just shoot the air and everything dies. This build takes advantage of some very interesting interactions, including ones with Indigon and Burden of Shadows with Temporal Rift in order to do some crazy bossing deletion. I must give this disclaimer right away though, this build is not easy to pilot or adjust. You probably will get yourself killed pretty often the first few times you try to do bosses with this, but if you do play this build for yourself, let me know in the comments how wrong or right I am about this. So let's get right into it. So let's start with the core of the build, Orb of Storms and shockburst rounds. So why are we using these skills together? Let's start with Orb of Storms, and let's just look at the in-game video for it.
Orb of Storms chains lightning to nearby enemies. Any lightning spell cast within the ring will cause additional arcs to shoot out.
So when he said any lightning spell, he actually meant lightning skill, as it shows in the description here. And apparently, every single shot of shockburst rounds counts as using a lightning skill. So when you place down the Orb of Storms and then shoot, we are using, quote unquote, like 16 lightning skills per second, and causing our Orb of Storms to just go crazy on whatever is near it. In practice with how this is done, I use a relatively strong Orb of Storms in one of my weapon sets, and then I switch to a crossbow with high attack speed and just fire. And this will do pretty well on its own for mapping, no matter how you build it. You can probably take this interaction by itself in any direction you would like, with different items, ascendancies, support gems, tree optimizations, and still probably find like decent success with mapping. I have my own setup that I will get into more detail later, but right now I want to address bossing, because this alone is going to do okay in mapping, but it's not going to one-shot bosses or even come close to that. So, what I'm using for bossing one shots, or not one shots, but like boss, like for how I'm melting bosses, is this weird, unintuitive interaction between Burn of Shadows, Indigon, and then any duration or lingering spells such as Orb of Storms. So let's just start with Burn of Shadows. What does it do? It grants your skills percent damage as chaos damage for every 3 life spent. Basically, you get damage based on how much your spell costs, and your spells cost life. The very important thing about this, contrary to like I don't know logic, is that the damage gained from the cost of the spell is not snapshotted, but rather dynamic to the current cost of the spell. This means that if we drop an Orb of Storms, and then for some reason the cost of Orb of Storms goes up, then the Orb of Storms that was already placed will do damage as if it cost the updated amount from the gain damage as from Burn of Shadows. So let me show you what this looks like. So this is what we normally do in damage, right? You know, for Orb of Storms. And then if I were to try this again, we're going to put the Orb of Storms down and then pause the game. And then we're going to just make the Orb of Storms more expensive. Let's see. Chance to ignite. Yep. That cold exposure, freeze buildup, and oh yeah, magnified effect. So these support gems don't actually give you any damage, but they do make the spell cost a lot more life now that we put them on. So now, if we shoot, we're going to do like way more damage compared to before. So the same is also true for indigon. So what is indigon? Indigon is helmet, unique helmet that makes it so that whenever you spend, for how much mana you spend recently, you will get increased cost of skills and increased spell damage as well. So it's kind of like this, oh, okay, you spend a lot of mana, you get some damage, but you also can't do as many skills as well. So that's like the downside. This is also dynamically updated to persistent spells like Orb of Storms. So, for example, I put life tap on Orb of Storms so that it can't cost mana, but let me show you what this looks like. If they're on the Orb of Storms and I shoot, that's about how much damage I would do, right? But if I were to place down Orb of Storms and then spend a lot of mana, we now do like yeah, he died. So you may have already guessed where this is headed, but the downside that I mentioned with Indigon, making your spells cost more, well, that is actually a very good thing for us, because it does not say cost of mana cost of skills, it just says cost of skills. So that applies to any skills with Burn of Shadows with their life cost. And, you know, as I mentioned before, once the spell's been placed down, if the cost of the spell goes up suddenly, then it's going to do damage as if it costs more. So let's see what this looks like. We put down a Orb of Storms, and then we put down a curse that costs all our mana. Our Orb of Storms cost 9,400 life, because we spent 3k mana on that. We spent 3k mana. And let's see, what is that? That's like 1% damage gain as for 3,000. Yeah, 3,000% damage gained as extra damage. And we spent, what, 3k mana, so we get like 50 spell damage for every 200. It's a lot, right? So, yeah, gain as damage is multiplicative with increase to damage. So this is a quadratic growth, like insane quadratic scalar on our damage per mana spent. You know, even just looking at it right now, let's see. Yeah, our Orb of Storms does like 72,000 damage per bolt, and you already know that we are shooting these like 16 per second. It's kind of crazy. So now that I've explained how damage directly correlates with mana spend, I want to explain Chronomancer's role in this. So aside from time freeze, which lets us do like a bunch of shenanigans at the beginning of the fight, the main thing we want access to is Temporal Rift, which basically just lets us like reset our health and mana when we click it and go back in time, but we're gonna be stationary. So yeah, I mean, as you can guess, the reason why is just so that we can spend our entire mana pool a second time to get that huge burst of damage. So how does this actually look like in practice? It's just going to be, so it's going to be Sigil at the beginning, and then double Orb, and then we're going to do Curse, Temporal Rift, and then spend all mana with Mana Tempest. And at this point in time, our Orb of Storms is going to do like 800, well, this is the bossing one I use, but the Orb of Storms is doing, yeah, that's like almost 900k damage, and for the bossing, there's going to be 2 of them, and we shoot at 16 per second, and I don't have to explain why this does a lot of damage anymore. I think you get the idea. Okay, so now that I've explained the core mechanics of this build, I will now go over like my specific setup for my Eldritch Battery Mind Over Matter Chronomancer. So with the way I pilot this build, I don't ever actually use the mana ramp while mapping. I just use Burn of Shadows like by itself. The issue with ramping while mapping is that it is extremely error prone and honestly a little bit clunky. You can actually find yourself in a lot of situations where you're just like bricked on costs and you have no mana and you just like, it's just not a good time. So it is not actually advised to do what you do for bossing while mapping, meaning we basically don't benefit from indigon at all when we are mapping. That being said, there are still several pros to getting a big mana pool, aside from the boss mana dump like strategy. I'll start with my basic rotation for mapping so that I can like contextualize like the rest of this section. So I just use, in weapon set, the Burn in Shadows weapon set, I just use Orb of Storms and then Mana Tempest, and then I switch to my crossbow and shoot. That's basically how it is for 99% of mapping. It is important that I use the Mana Tempest while I'm in my Burn of Shadows weapon set so that it costs life and not mana, and it doesn't cause the ramping effect to occur. This should be enough to clear like everything in maps except for just you know, like the boss at the end where I have to do the tech. So considering that I don't spend mana at all but have a very large mana pool, it's kind of a no-brainer to just run Mind Over Matter, you know, get that mana as life instead, and since I don't spend it, it is just my life, my effective health. And should we take like big chunks in mapping, we don't have to actually rely on mana regen to stay topped out. Like let's say this was a big chunk to my health, I could just use Temporal Rift and just undo all the damage that was dealt to me. So that's basically like the core of the survivability in my version of this build. Temporal Rift in general is just kind of like a godly panic button. If you take big chunks in ES or mana, health, whatever, you can just always just take this, get out of danger, reset your health. It's just really good to make sure you always use this when there's any sign of danger. And then, of course, with this kind of mana, yeah, Arcane Intensity is also just a no-brainer. You have like 4k, so this is giving you like 120% increased spell damage. So yeah, that's like the first like layer of this build with the big mana pool instead of like an ES type build. The next thing I have on my Burden of Shadows weapon set is archmage. Again, this seems like a no-brainer since you have like such a big mana pool. This gives you, increase extra damage per mana. But it's actually good for a different reason than you may think. So archmage, with the 3% damage as lightning per 100 mana, that is roughly about 120% damage gained as extra lightning damage with my 4k mana pool. But because with Burden of Shadows, my Orb of Storms actually costs 1,200 life, and that is actually like 400% damage as extra chaos. So the extra damage from Archmage only accounts for like 20-25% more damage in the form of extra damage, which again is like not bad, but the real reason why we use Archmage is because of the mana penalty. Ever since 0.2, the mana penalty for Archmage has been made even more severe, making spells cost like 6.7% of your max mana with the level 14 Archmage. This is actually a good thing because it adds that mana, that percent of our max mana, to the cost of Orb of Storms as life cost, which then again gives you more damage because it costs more. So let me show you. Like if I take this off, right now it's 112.46. If I take this off, it's only 740 life. So we're gaining a lot of damage from Burden of Shadows by making it cost a lot more using Archmage. To show you this more specifically, let's say this has no cost multipliers, right? This costs 666 life, and we have 6.7 of 4,034. All right, let's see what that is. So 4,000. So that's like 270 increased costs, and our thing costs 396 normally. So 396 plus this percent of our mana. Yeah, that is the cost that we gained from Archmage. And then once we have this new cost, the multipliers apply to the new costs as well. So 30%, this is 30% more cost of that, and then 20% more cost of that, and then like another 20% more cost of that, and we end up with a very expensive Orb of Storms that does a ton of damage from its high life cost. While we're here, I guess I may as well talk about the skills and skill gems and the weapon sets they are associated to. So, start off, let's talk about Orb of Storms, the main thing. So I have two in mind. This is because I have one like mostly for mapping, and then one mostly for bossing. You don't really need to have two of them. I just think I prefer having one that's better for one situation, one's better for the other, but there's nothing wrong with just running one for both scenarios. The most important thing about Orb of Storms is that it is just assigned to weapon set 1. There's no reason to ever use this in the crossbow weapon set. You always want to use this with Burden of Shadows. So starting with the mapping one, the main difference between the mapping one and the bossing one is that the mapping one has chain, more AoE, and cast speed, while the bossing one has overabundance. That's basically the main difference. Other than that, you just get as much damage as you can for each of them. So for mapping, I run Momentum and Zenith for damage. Momentum is great because you place down the orb and you are almost certainly going to move at least 2 meters after you've placed one down. And then Zenith is also great because, remember, we are never spending our mana for any reason. We are always topped out, and that means that this effect is always true. We will always get that 30% more damage. Oh, and by the way, yeah, Zenith is also dynamic, so you cannot snapshot the effect of Zenith and then dump your mana. You will lose its effect as soon as you are no longer 90%. And then for the bossing one, yeah, I mean, overabundance, and then just as much more damage as we can possibly cram in with cost multipliers, and then just more damage in general. shockburst rounds, the only thing you need with this is probably just nimble reload. I think that's the most important thing because it makes it feel way less clunky. And then, yeah, more attack speed is more damage. Chance to not fire means fire more bolts. This is nice, and this is nice. Mana Tempest is actually assigned to both weapon sets, and its behavior is very different based on which weapon set you use it on. So for mapping, it's just used as you would expect. It just gives us more damage since we're not using it for the mana rep. We're just going to place it down and then get like our empowerment. We're going to get our bolts to split to 3 enemies initially. We're going to get more damage, Coiling Strike. That's how it's used for map. For bossing, it is used purely as just like a mana dump tool. Because once we cast Despair the first time, we won't be able to cast it the second time. So Mana Tempest is our way of actually dumping our mana. Once we have the initial ramp up from Despair. So Despair is the curse I use. It doesn't actually matter what curse you use. This could be any curse. All it matters is that we are just spending a ton of mana, and curse is the most efficient way to do that, based on what I see. This is just none of these matter. All that matters is that this says cost multiplier, cost multiplier, cost multiplier, cost multiplier, cost multiplier. And in the end, we get like a 3k mana Despair because that. After all of this, there's still the one last new cost multiplier, which is Eldritch Battery, double the cost. So yeah, that's how we're able to get a 3k mana Despair, and that's its sole purpose, literally just to dump mana initially. And then I'll explain the auras later, but as you can tell, I mean, Blink is nice in the crossbow weapon set, and then Archmage I just explained. And then I'll talk about Blasphemy later, but yeah, I mean, that's just that's the defensive layer. One thing you may be wondering is that I've talked a lot about life cost, but I have not mentioned how to get it all back. It's just life on kill. That's all there is. Now, the thing about life on kill is that you can actually put it on your crossbow weapon, and even though you don't actually kill anything with your weapon, as long as you just have this equipped at the time when enemies are dying, you will get that life on kill. I also have life on kill on the tree as well. 1%, 1%, 1%, 2%. If you are to use this on a weapon set skill point rather than the main tree, be sure that it's on the same weapon set as the one for the crossbow, because life on kill, for the tree, it only matters that this is equipped at the time of killing. It does not matter what the source of the kills were, which is the Orb of Storms. It just matters that you have this active at the time that enemies are dying. So there is one last topic to address, which is the defense. This is probably the most concerning area of this build. 4k EHP is alright in my opinion. I'm not going to count our health because in a lot of cases while mapping we are going to just be very low like this, and then we're going to regen it up. But yeah, I want to say we're just at 0 life all the time, just for the sake of this video. We're going to have only 4k as our effective health. We might be able to reach 4.5k if we sacrifice an arm and a leg, but being locked into these uniques means we can only get it from our the rest of the gear here. So instead, we're going to have to look at alternative layers to defense other than just stacking more EHP. There are a few things I've tried, but the thing that I found to be the best is just, the Blasphemy with Temp Chains that I mentioned. Along with, I don't have it equipped, but along with Apex of the Moment, which is the enemies in your presence are slowed. So you take that, you take the Blasphemy, and you just scale you scale curse magnitude, curse area, presence area, slow magnitude, you get hinder, you get slow magnitude. Yeah, you just, and then AoE. You just scale the effect of your curse and your slow aura so that enemies are just far weaker, and you are not you don't need as much effective health. Of course, the actual best defense is to just kill everything as fast as possible. So we actually put all effort into this as well. We back on the first weapon set, the priority is instead cast speed, cast speed, cast speed, and then like some increased damage and then increased damage. So yeah, cast speed and increased damage, so that we can get our rotation out as fast as possible. Oh, and one last very, very important thing, which is in line with this, is this guy here. Quick Change Act. In practice, we are always shooting a crossbow, and then after a while we place on the orb, which is like, you shoot the crossbow, which is in the orb, which is a weapon set, and then we change weapon set again. So we're doing 2 weapon set changes every time we clear a pack. So it's very nice to have this increased weapon swap speed. This is basically akin to having like a lot of 50% cast speed on like another build. While we're here, I may as well talk about the rest of the tree and the jewels, and then finally my items. So start with the general tree. I mean, it's mostly grabbing like 5 jewel sockets while also allowing us to path to the most important stuff for each weapon set. So, you know, it may look kind of awkward, but it's like this because we want to be able to grab some of these key nodes for slow magnitude ores, whatever, while also grabbing like damage and cast speed. The things that are shared, of course, there's the Mind Over Matter Eldritch Battery, but the things that are shared between the weapon sets is, yeah, AoE. AoE is nice in both cases. We have, yeah, percent increased mana, and then this little like bundle here is really good. You get like attack and cast speed, so we can use our Orb of Storms faster, and we can shoot faster with shockburst rounds by grabbing this little line right here. Of course, you know, yeah, increased mana, you want that to be consistent across both ends. And yeah, Whispers of Doom is, you can't, it's a keystone. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it. As for the jewels, 3 of my jewels are just this Grand Spectrum for Sapphires. These are like incredible. Like, if you have 3 of these, you get 36% all res. It's just crazy to me. I think this is just a really nice way to fix your res if you have like jewel sockets free in your tree. And then for my last 2 jewels, you can kind of just do whatever you want, to be honest. Oh, okay. I'll obviously get Orb of Storms, +3 Orb of Storms. That's just, yeah, I mean, we're an Orb of Storms build, so +3 Orb of Storms is really good. So from nothing, you can actually just take like you can kind of do whatever you want with this, to be honest. You don't need this specific one. This one grants me some cooldown reduction, which is really nice for being able to use Blink and Temporal Rift more often while mapping. But you don't really need that. You can kind of just, you may not even need a from nothing to begin with. You can go, like, for example, I used to go over here. This was nice because it gives me some stun threshold, area effect, and I actually used to value skill effect duration a little bit more. All this means is like your time freeze will last longer. So when you're starting out with the build, I actually would recommend grabbing some skill effect duration like up here or over here, because you might want some more time to be able to execute your combo. But once you're good at it, you don't really need like any skill effect duration. You can just do it all within like the default time freeze window. And then Megalomaniac / Anoint, you just want to get this somehow. So for me, I happen to have it on my Megalomaniac, but if I didn't have this, I would just anoint it instead and then get a Megalomaniac for something else. And then as for your last like additional notable from the opposite of the Anoint or Megalomaniac, then you can just do whatever you want, really. I really like this node here because it gives me some stun threshold, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options you can take. You can take like, oh yeah, this is nice. You can get some magnitude of aura skills, so your temp chains and aura is more powerful, and your your slow is bigger range, you can take like some resistances or whatever. You can take. Yeah, I mean you can. Oh yeah, Polymathy is pretty nice. You can get like you're so in stack that this is also probably pretty good, but there's no really. The only thing this is the only thing you actually need. Everything else like doesn't matter really. And then as for the items, so there's obviously the core items. We got Burden of Shadows. Oh, I guess I didn't talk about the crossbow yet. This is the Rampart Raptor unique crossbow. It has the effect of having infinite ammo if you reloaded recently, and it also has extremely high attack speed. This crossbow is basically no one uses this because after Act 1, this has no damage, so you can't use it anymore. It's just not, no, I don't think people will use this crossbow. And yeah, Burden Shadows, and then yeah, indigon. So what's nice about this build is that this crossbow, this staff, and indigon at base, you can probably get all three for like 30 exalts. So the core of the build is actually quite cheap. Also, same for like these jewels. Like these are like the cheapest Grand Spectrums out of the three. I don't know like why these are so cheap. These are really crazy in my opinion, but I think these are like for chaos at most. So yeah, that's that. And then I already Orb of Storms is like this is cheap as well. I think it's 1 div at most, and these two I just talked about how they're like basically optional. The actual spendings on your build were going to be in the amulet, body rings, and boots, glove, and belt. So that's where the spending can get kind of high, or as high as you'd like it to be. So the first thing you want is the amulet. This you want plus 3 level skills because, or as much as 2 is fine. You just want levels to skills because that's how you make your spells more expensive, and they'll do more damage too. And then percent increase in mana. So percent increase in mana, and then levels to skills are the 2 things you want, and then a little bit of spirit as well. Now you don't actually need very much spirit. I think you only need like, I want to say 5 spirit. And nothing even goes that low, so just the lowest roll spirit you can get is fine. The reason is because so Enfeeble is like the big like bonus thing you can equip if you have a lot of spirit to spare, but normally if you just have Blink and Blasphemy, you only need like 114 spirit to have both of these equipped. So, and you can also get like 10% more from this wheel over here. So that means you only need you only need 5 spirit to have this up. If you can afford a lot more spirit, then yeah, you can throw in an Enfeeble and then a Clarity or whatever to get like a stronger Blasphemy. And then for weapon set 2, you don't need to have the Blasphemy. You can just not run this like that because you're not in weapon set. Or the Burden of Shadows weapon set, you're not in this for very often, or for very long. So after the amulet, the rest of the gear all follows like the same rule. Just get as much, first get Ellie capped, and then after that, just stack as much mana as possible. I'm sure you all know how to do that from last league, but yeah, I mean just ES because we're Eldritch Battery, mana, and then attributes. Following that, we do want some life as well because we need at least a certain amount of life to be able to cast these super expensive spells. But yeah, this is like secondary to mana. And then finally you want to try to get res capped, as close to res capped as possible, and then after that it's whatever floats your boat. You can get like mana regen, you can get cast speed, magic find, of course. Oh, and one last thing. This flask. It is important that you try to get a flask that has some instant recovery applied to it, because sometimes you'll find yourself in situations where you're low on life and you didn't kill enough enemies, so you didn't recover very much of it. So when that happens, you can just spam your flask and like go back to full. Or you can use Temporal Rift, that also works too. But having this second option to recover life is very nice. Okay, I just realized I just talked about my items without actually showing you any of them, so I'll just look at them a little more closely real fast. So yeah, I mean, this has a lot of attributes. Some ES, as it says, good. Percent max mana, spirit, level skills, yep. So yeah, this one, huge mana roll, lots of chaos res, some LE res, and life roll. And then this one is my Magic Find amulet that has relevant stats, so my lots of mana roll, int roll, life roll, cold res, and of course the big Magic Find. And then this body piece is insane. This is this is a 950 ES body piece with int and double res roll. So I mean, I had this for my other character and just brought it to this one, but you know, I mean, I'm sure you can get 800 ES just fine with like decent rolls without like sacrificing your arm for it. For the gloves, yeah, ES, mana, chaos resint. Oh, attack speed is quite nice as well. It will give you just a little bit more damage because you can, you know, shoot faster. And then yeah, boots, just move speed, magic find, and then like int, fire res. These boots can probably be a little bit better statted, but I think they're good enough. And then yeah, my belt is insane. It has lightning, chaos res, and then mana, life roll with 3 charm slots. And then as for the charms themselves, I found myself bleeding a lot, so I took this. I found myself getting slowed a lot, so I took this. And I found myself getting frozen sometimes, so I took this. And there's nothing too much more to them. As for like the uniques themselves, this one got a plus lightning corrupt, and I think that was like that cost me 1 divine. This one has like more attack speed corrupt. This is not like, I think this was still only like a couple exalts, to be honest. And then this one has a spirit corrupt. This will cost you, this can cost a bit more. I think this one was like 2 divines for me. So yeah, I mean, that's the more deep look at my items. So of course, for the end of the video, we gotta do a map showcase with amazing commentary. So yeah, so this is our map. It's got some pack size, damage, shields, whatever. It's a 6-mod map, and I'm gonna showcase it on map with a boss, breach, and expedition. Normally I would instill these with delirium, but out of respect for your eyes, I won't for this map. Oh, also one thing you may notice when you use indigon, you never have mana at the beginning of the map. You have to regen it from base. A quick workaround to this, and this is because of indigon. So a quick workaround to this is just take off indigon, walk to the checkpoint, then put it back on. So a little nice neat trick for a problem with indigon right now. Okay, so let's, oh, breach right away, nice. So yeah, we are, we got a nice little aura. We are able to just chain kill. Oh, this might be, oh, is this a 10 breach? Alright, I'm not gonna do all of them in one go. I'll just do like, this one here. And I'll do the rest of them on my own time later. That's lucky. Alright, let's start the breach. Yeah, so I mean, our clear is, you know, pretty good. We can like wipe the breach very quickly, a little bit more pack size. Oh, who's this? Yeah, they just die on the side. Yeah, I mean, breach is very nice. I accidentally mistook that breach. I did not mean to do that. Ooh, took some mana damage. Gotta just instantly undo that with our temporal rift. Alright, let's not step on this one by accident. Looks like the first breach ended. Yeah, I mean, our clear is quite nice. We are just clearing something drop. Nice. Okay, let's grab that chaos sword. Very, very comfortable. We have the slow and enfeeble auras. We're pretty safe. If something, the only thing that's of real threat to us is like getting off screen. Let's skip these breaches for now. We already saw what that looks like. Yeah, I mean, these auras are very powerful. Keep us very safe. Clear is crazy, of course. I already said that. Let's fund the expedition. Oh, nice. There it is. Oh. Yeah, if I take like 1/4 of my health even, I'll just like Temporal Rift. I think having 3k and less is really risky. Oh! Yeah, that 9% just out of there. Alright, let's see what this area's got. X-proof attack speed. It doesn't matter what they have unless it's like immunity to chaos damage. It's just... they will all die like as soon as they spawn. Okay, looks like we don't have any extra logbooks, so let's just do like... let's get like... oh, this should give us a lot of runic monsters right here. Yeah, this should be pretty good. So for this thing, I actually used my bossing setup to kill... yeah, okay, well, that was fast. Oh, wait, you're still alive. Okay, yeah, dead. So, yeah, I usually... there's nothing wrong with using the bossing setup while mapping, or just using that exclusively. It's just that you will have less reach with those orbs than with the chaining AoE orbs. So here I can demonstrate the combo. Get these guys, get these guys. This one's a little annoying because you have those little stupid guys at the top like spamming arrows on you like that. But yeah. Here we go. Get full rift. Mana drain, yeah, it needs to dead. And we can reset our mana one more time. And then let's go the rest. And yeah, I mean that's our map. Yeah, crazy bosser, decent mapper. Yeah, I think yep. Let me know what you guys think about this build. It was pretty fun making this. And that's all.